Hi everybody, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name is Jim. If you haven't been here before, this is predominantly a turning channel. If it doesn't go round, I typically don't like to do it. That's basically what it is. I do some flat work occasionally, but I am a wood turner through and through, and that's what I like to do. I like to work on the lathe. This week, we are going to use some of this fabulous Boxelder Burl. And I've got all kinds of different sizes of this stuff. And I've used this in a ton of projects over the past, and I've been holding on to all these small little pieces of wood. And what I think we're going to do is just combine them with some resin. I don't know exactly what color we're going to use yet, but and I don't really know what this is going to be at this point, but we can't make anything with it until we get it cast. So let's go over to the workbench and do that. All right, so this is what we've got here. And I absolutely love this Boxelder Burl. Some of these pieces are just spectacular. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up or not. Anyway, we've got a whole bunch of pieces that are actually rounded. I don't know if it's going to fit perfectly inside of the bucket on the bottom, but it'll be close. Doesn't matter. We'll be turning a lot of it away at the bottom anyway. So I haven't figured out exactly what we're going to use for a bucket yet either. All right, so here's the bucket that we're going to use. I'm going to spray some mold release in here away from this stuff. Give that a second to dissipate. I'd like to personally thank you all for stopping by to watch this week's video, and this is the 110,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. And along with that, we're also going to be giving away a 3-gallon kit from Designer Epoxy. So thanks again to Designer Epoxy for sponsoring my channel and for doing these giveaways. This is some really beautiful stuff, and it's a shame not to see it go into something, so I figured this would be a good for a giveaway. I'm going to look around for some other pieces because I don't think that that's quite deep enough here. Let me measure that. Maybe it is. Yeah, that's 4 inches. I want to have it a little bit deeper than that. There, that should give us lots. There, that will give us some resin pockets as well. Speaking of that, let's mix them up. This week we're going to be using deep casting epoxy from Designer Epoxy. It's important to have a really deep casting epoxy for this. If you don't use the deep casting epoxy, then you're going to have issues. And we're going to do the Enchanted Green. I don't think that I've done a casting that's just Enchanted Green, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. All right, so this is the first 1.5 liters. That's my heater running in the background. If I had to guess, this is going to take a minimum 4.5 liters, I bet. And at some point, I'll have to put a weight on this because it's going to start floating. Bring it back when I got more mixed up. All right, here's another 1.5 liters mixed up the same strength. All right, so this is going to bring it to 4.5 liters, and that's it. I'm not going to give it any more. And I know that a lot of people may be thinking that this is a lot of resin, but that Boxelder Burl is really going to soak up a lot of this resin. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised that when we pull this out of the pressure pot in 3 days, that the level is probably 1 inch below where the hardboard is that I put in there. All right, well, that's it. We'll see you in 72 hours. Oh, yeah, that's nice and heavy. All right, well, it's 3 days later. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the level has dropped off to about where I said it would drop off to. Anyway, let's get this rock out of here and see how hard this casting is to get out. And remember, I put mold release in here. Sorry to disappoint. wild. Yeah. Looking good. Huh. Don't see any thermal cracking. Looks like it did get hot though. Alright, pry that off, see if I can reuse it again. Cool, be able to reuse that. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, there you go. If there was another inch of resin in there, I think it would have been pretty darn close to being what we needed. It's, you know, these are scrap pieces, so you know, I don't really see this as much of a loss. Grind this down and I'll get a center. Starting off with the 5/8 bowl gouge from David Ellsworth. Since the top of this casting is pretty much just pieces of wood sticking out of it, this is the quicker option. It just removes material a lot faster than, say, the Hercules does. So I need to talk to you guys about designer epoxy. First off, today there is another deal. I don't know how Gabriel's doing this. He's just putting up these fantastic deals. Almost seems to be almost weekly now. But this weekend, you'll get 2 free molds, 5 color bags, and I don't know what the discount is as of doing the voiceover because this is actually Thursday doing the voiceover. So anyway, during this weekend, you know, my code's not going to be active because you're going to get a better deal with what he's offering on his website anyway. Along with that, I also would like to talk to you about the emails that I've been getting. And I love to see emails come in from my subscribers, but I really would like for you to keep in mind that I don't work for Designer Epoxy. And I'm getting a lot of emails in regards to why is my epoxy not curing? What epoxy should I be using for this and that? And, you know, really those questions should be directed to Designer Epoxy and not me. I'll still field the pressure pot questions and the vacuum chamber questions because, you know, that's not really their realm. Their realm is the epoxy. So really any epoxy related questions should go to designerepoxy.ca. Gabriel has a fantastic team there, and they are more than willing to help you out if you're running into any issues with the epoxy and the other products that they sell. Thanks. One thing that I will mention about the epoxy and mixing, you know, there are a number of mixing containers on the market. Designer Epoxy does sell their own, and I do find that it's easy to use. But to be perfectly honest with you, I never use the scales that you see on the side of these buckets. And the reason for that is because I sometimes I'll look at them, and I've even talked to Gabriel in the past. I'll show him like a mixing bucket that I have, and he goes, well, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm not totally dumb here because I do find that some of these, the grading on the side of these containers is just whacked. I don't really even understand it. So what I typically do is when I'm mixing and you'll look on the container, you will actually see 2 black marks. And what I've done is I've taken a permanent black marker, and I like to either use the milliliter scale or the ounce scale, and I'll mark that off according to if it's a 2-to-1 or it's a 1-to-1. And then that way, you know, there's less chance you're going to make an error while mixing epoxy, and you don't really want to make these errors because first of all, it will destroy the wood that you're working on, because if it isn't mixed properly, then of course it's going to be encased in epoxy that's never really going to cure. And of course, epoxy is expensive, so you certainly don't want to waste it when it comes to mixing and making a mistake. The reason why I'm turning the tenon on the very top of this is because I want to reverse it, and then that way we'll be able to put a glue block on the bottom of this piece like I like to do. That way you're not taking away from the size of the piece. That's one of the main reasons why I put that on, and also so that you can put multiple coats of finish on it and not actually handle the piece that you're working on. That is the Phoenix. That's a really cool tool as well, and again, these are all from Hunter Tool Systems. And just like all of my sponsors, there's a link in the description. If you use code INLAYGYM at checkout, you'll receive your discount. I'm so fortunate that I have these sponsors, and just to give you some peace of mind, I wouldn't use a sponsor unless I wholeheartedly believed in the products that they make. So I know that sometimes it's a very money world, but that's not the case when it comes to my sponsors. I truly do like the products that they make and they sell. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit of peace of mind as far as buying any of the items from my sponsors. As you see me take this waste block down, I have to cover this again because I have to do it at every giveaway. I will never contact you for money. If you are the winner of the bowl that I'm making today and the epoxy, that is going to be shipped to you free. I will cover the cost worldwide. Of course, designer epoxy is only Canada and the lower 48 US states. Please do not get roped into these scammers. All right, so we got ourselves a pretty deep hole right here. Probably 5/8 of an inch, somewhere around there. So I want to fill that before we proceed, and what I'm going to use is the UV resin from Designer Epoxy, and all I've done is throw a little bit in this Dixie cup and put a little bit of the pigment in with it so it's not too strong. That way hopefully the UV light will penetrate all the way through it. This is deep and it's kind of iffy if it'll cure this deeply, but let's find out. I absolutely love this resin, but it does have its limitations. If you mix the pigment really strong with this UV resin and you have a deep cavity like this, you could have issues curing it. This time, it wasn't a problem at all. If you haven't seen this type of resin before, it's cured with a UV light. So because of the depth of this, I'm going to put this on here and leave it on here for 5 minutes. And hopefully that'll get enough UV light penetration in there to cure that whole piece. I've got one more on the side after that to fill, and then we'll be able to trim this up and then do some coring. Back again with the number 3 Hercules. I did put some UV resin. When I stopped the lathe, you might be able to see the shiny spot there. There was some of the epoxy was missing at the very top, so I filled that area in as well. Really only needed a couple of fillings, major fillings anyway. And a lot of times that happens with when you're working with pieces of wood like this and the epoxy starts to cure, it'll form like a dam, and then the epoxy can't kind of go through that dam area, and then you end up with a little void. Now that I've got this UV resin in my inventory, it's not really that big of a deal anymore, where it used to be when you used to have to wait for, say, 24 hours for another epoxy to cure. We're all set up and ready for coring. This is the one-way coring rig. You can get it at oneway.ca. And of course, I've got my Core Pro cutter in from Hunter Tool Systems. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use any tailstock support for a little bit, until we're about 1/3 of the way in at least. So hopefully nothing bad happens until then. I absolutely love this Core Pro cutter. It just really eats up this resin and burl material. Really awesome product. Be honest with you, they're not exactly the cheapest in the world, but they are a great product and well worth it if you do a lot of coring. Yeah. Wow. Broke the tenon in half. That was so close. See that? Broke the tenon right in half. Now, if you get a clean break, I'll show you how you can correct this. That's just some medium Starbond accelerator, and clamp them together using the drill press. And a lot of times you won't have any issues and this will work. There, I'll give that about, I'm going to give it about 10 minutes. And it should be cured. And then we'll try this again. So in order to really kind of get this running true again, you need to true up the tenon, because it's going to be, you could try and get away with using it without truing it up with the parting tool, but you're probably not going to have a lot of great success. After I got looking at this, there were some pieces that were missing, and then I just decided to grind it off and put a different glue block on the bottom of this. Now this one is all side grain, and this is one of the main reasons why this failed. Some people are going to say that it's probably too small. I don't like to have really large glue blocks on the bottom of these because it really affects your foot design. So I'm going to change this out to a piece of a pepper mill that of course is going to be all end grain, and then that way it can't break apart and you can put greater pressure, clamping pressure down on it as well. I know better. I just trying to use up some of the scraps I had laying around. I should have just used this, and from now on these castings where you know I want to have a smaller tenon than maybe I probably should have, I'm going to start using just end grain pieces like this as opposed to anything that's going to really have any side grain in it. But with that said, you know, I've got different size jaws that fit onto my, these are one-way stronghold chucks that I'm using. And I certainly could go in that direction, but I just wanted a smaller foot. Then I might have been able to squeeze the next size up on there, but it would have been really close. So fingers crossed, back to coring here. And I also wanted you to take note of the fact that when that tenon failed, it was actually the wood and not the glue joint. I know that there's been some people that are quite skeptical that hot melt glue, and it is high temperature hot melt glue that's melted in an electric frying pan. That's what I'm using. I'm not using a glue gun. You need lots of volume, and you need it to be really still very hot when it goes on. That way you don't have any adhesion issues. Now that I'm in a little ways, we can get the tailstock extender on here from John Tully. Thanks again, John, for sending that along. A while back, somebody did contact me and said that they had a solution to this problem. Essentially, it would replace the tailstock. And at the time, I kind of passed on the option, and I really wish that I hadn't have. So if you're still listening out there, please send me another email, and we can discuss what you wanted to do before. I'm finding that this smaller work is challenging to core, just due to the setup of the rig and the tailstock support that, or lack thereof when you first start off, which is, in my mind, one of the more dangerous areas where you're going to lose your casting. So there, we've got a small little core that we can use at a later date for something else. This is now outboard. Again, if you're new here, the reason why I like to turn outboard on left-hand threads, this is a 20-inch general lathe. And if you are left-handed and you're struggling to work over the lathe bed, like a lot of lefties do, this lathe here, or a lathe that has left-hand threads on the outboard end, is the answer to all of that. So that's why I'm turning on the outboard end. I know a lot of people get confused over that, but that's the main reason why I turn on the outboard end, because it's more comfortable for me. And there's a look at the outside. Absolutely fantastic burl. Really only one or two pieces with the red in it. Usually Boxelder Burl has a lot more red in it than that. And that red is a naturally occurring fungus that's in the tree. It's not harmful at all, but it does give you that beautiful red color. If whatever it's made into, if it happens to get too much UV light though, it will fade to brown. So that's one consideration if you have a Boxelder Burl piece or Boxelder period. Well, of course you'll get it. And Boxelder, when I say Boxelder, that's Manitoba maple here in Canada. That's Boxelder is what it's known in the world. In Canada here, it's Manitoba maple, which is considered a weed species. But anyway, if the red that's in these pieces gets too much UV light, it will turn brown. So keep that in mind if you ever have one of these pieces. Here's another zoomed out view, kind of showing you how I whittle this down. And of course, because the outside profile of this bowl is not the same as the knife set, typically there'll be more material to remove in the belly of the bowl. That's what I like to call it anyway, that transition ram right there. And really, this was pretty smooth. There was some areas inside that needed some filling. Take note of the way that I'm holding the tool. Whenever I can, I like to have the tool in my left hand pinned against my body, like it is right there. It tends to take a lot of the pressure off your joints. So I know that these zoomed out views are quite popular as to how I'm holding the tool. So, I try to incorporate those, and the never ending battle against shavings and dust and trying to keep it off the camera is another thing. If anybody's got a great idea as to try and keep the dust off the camera, I'm all ears, because in the running of shooting one of these videos, I probably clean the camera off 100 times. And of course, if you forget to clean it off and then you're reviewing the footage later on, you go, oh man, and it's all covered in dust. So I don't know if there's an easy solution to it, but if you've got one, I certainly would like to hear it. Always checking wall thickness to see kind of where you are. That way you don't become a member of the funnel club, because nobody wants to be in the funnel club. But I've been there, well, I don't know how many times I've been there. I've been there a few times. So I don't want to be in the club anymore. So I always check fairly often with the calipers. And if you're curious, the ones that I'm using there came from Lee Valley. Lee Valley sells absolutely awesome tools. They're not giving them away, but if you're looking for something very specific and you're looking for something that's got some quality in it, then Lee Valley is certainly the place to get it. They have a really large hardware catalog as well, if you're into hardware. Anyway, I am not affiliated with them. I'm just a happy customer. So the other thing that I should really point out with the Hercules here, you're watching me go in and out of this piece, and there's not even really any hint of a catch. And I'm cutting above center. I typically don't cut below center, but you certainly can with this tool. But the big thing with this tool is if it's on its side, which, you know, the only time that it's really not for me is maybe the dead center of the bowl. Other than that, it's always rotated to the right so that it's, you know, around 45-ish degrees. And if it's there, like it is right now, it's very hard to get a catch with this tool. And as you can see, it just really eats up this hard burl and this resin. Love it. As you watch me take the last few passes here, you know, I'm aiming for about a 1/2-inch wall thickness. I think it's a little bit less than that. I just want to talk about the scammers that typically will talk in the comments. So they'll reply to your comment and say, congratulations, you won. They may supply you with a number. They might even contact you by email. If you see that in the comments, under your comment, then to the right of that comment is 3 dots. Click on that and you can report it as spam and YouTube will take it down. And then once I get to them, I can block them. And that's typically what I do. Finally, on to sanding. These are the 3.5-inch nipple discs from sandpaper.ca. Again, another fantastic product. I love these nipple discs. And this piece is sanded from 60 to 800. And I noticed that there was a little bit of tear out in there that needed to be addressed, but the center of that sandpaper is still good. So I'll move to the outside of the bowl, sand that so that I'm not wasting that sandpaper, and then I'll typically go back to the inside with a fresh new, say 60 or 80 grit, and then carry on. I was having a hard time getting in down by the foot area, so that's what the right angled air-powered sander is for. This is the Triple E buffing compound from the Beal buffing system. Apparently I've been saying that wrong in the past. Sorry about that. One thing's for sure, if you want your name butchered, just let me take a run at it. And that's exactly what will happen. So I do apologize for that. Anyway, we'll clean that off with some denatured alcohol and get ready for our first coat. Well, all right, exciting times. This is the first coat of Waterlux Gloss. I'd be surprised if this doesn't take at least 3 coats. Well, there you go. Fabulous. Boxelder Burl resin. Awesome coloration and pigment in that. You know, when I first started making bowls like this, I thought that I would hate them with the straight lines, but you know, it grows on you, and now I actually really like them. Some of the nicest burl is on the bottom here. She's a beauty. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for the second coat. All right, well, it is the next day, and I've been asked to show this, and it makes sense why people want to see this. What determines how many coats of finish I need, and why do I put another coat on? And a good example is, you can, hopefully the camera is going to pick this up, but you can see it's kind of orange peely almost. Here it's dull, so the wood has absorbed all the finish compared to if you look around it. Anyway, there's just examples of it all the way through. Sometimes I might see a hair in the finish, and then I'll have to redo it as well. Just flip this over on the back side, see if there's anything that really sticks out. And there's another good example right here. You can see it's dull all along the top of here. That kind of back and forth so you can see it. Anyway, that's what determines if I put another coat of finish on. Like I said earlier, this will probably take 3 coats. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. It did in fact take 3 coats. So between coats, again, if you're new here, I like to buff with the Triple E buffing compound, and then all that does, it kind of takes the roughness out of the casting, and it knocks down any lumps and bumps. And once it's cleaned again with the denatured alcohol, we're able to proceed with the next coat. All right, this is the second coat of Waterlux Gloss. All right, well, I don't see any dry spots in it now. I do love this area right here where the pigment is sitting on top of that little burl islands. Very, very cool. This is some of the nicest burl you're ever going to see anywhere. Really like this color. The outside. As we get helicopters from the military flying over. All right, well, if there's a third coat, I will do it the same. Other than that, we'll see you when we're doing the bottom. Here I'm mounting the piece on the vacuum chuck. I think it only took me 3 attempts to get it. After that, we're going to use a 5/8 bowl gouge just to take down any of the wood that's in this tenon that's on here. And then you'll see me switch out to the Hercules just to finish off the rest of this. I'd like to personally thank you all that have stuck with me this far in the video. This one here is 40 minutes. It's a little less than a lot of the ones that I do, but I do appreciate you sticking around and watching the video. So once I've got this trimmed up, I sanded this piece from 120 to 500. All right, well, that's going to do it for the video. Let's see who the YouTube random comment picker has selected for the epoxy and for this beautiful bowl. So what you're looking at are the 6 names that the YouTube random comment picker has selected for the epoxy draw. So if you don't see your name here, you're not even in the running. And the names on this side are for the bowl giveaway. And again, these were selected by the YouTube random comment picker. There's only been 6 videos since the last giveaway at 105,000. And that video is included in these as well. And I've excluded shorts. So don't bother putting designer epoxy on any of the short videos because you won't be entered into that. And same with the bowl giveaway. All right, so with that said, let's pick a name for the epoxy and for the bowl. So before we do the draw, I just want to cover one more thing. I've been getting some emails and messages about helping me financially on the channel here. I've got super chats, super stickers, and of course I've received a number of donations that way, and thank you so much for the people that have done that. So I'm in the YouTube membership program, and they said what I should do is activate my members tab, and so I've done that. So for $2.99 a month Canadian, you'll get exclusive content. So I'll be sharing updates on the things that I'm making that week. Along with that, like hopefully I'll be able to interact with you guys, and we'll see, you know, maybe you can help me design things. I don't know exactly. I've never done this before, so I don't really know the ins and outs on it. But anyway, I don't want anybody to contribute money to me unless they can absolutely afford it. And for those that can, thank you so much. It'll go towards getting my 4 feet back to my workshop. So thanks for that. Anyway, there's a tab down below if you want to join. That's where you find it. All right, so let's do the epoxy draw first. All right, so I've got the 6 names for the epoxy draw here. I've folded them in half. I find that they mix up a lot better. So in they go. Keep the lid here. And the winner of the epoxy draw is, make sure not to take the first one. Here it is right here. Sherry Thompson, 6524. You are the winner of the 3-gallon kit from Designer Epoxy. Congratulations. Please send your details to Sprague Woodturning at gmail.com, and I will forward your information onto Designer Epoxy, and they'll get the 3-gallon kit mailed out to you. Congratulations. Let's pick the bowl. All right, so here are the 6 names for the bowl giveaway. In they go. Lid here. And the winner of the bowl giveaway is right here. Congratulations, Charles Sulman, 564. You are the winner of the 110,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. Again, please send your details to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com, and I will get your bowl mailed out to you. I will also need a phone number if it's not in Canada. All right, speaking of the bowl, let's talk about it. So, you know, I've said it a number of times that you can't go wrong with Boxelder Burl, and this is a very good example of it. I don't mind the straight lines in it. As long as there's a lot of straight lines in it, then it works for me. If there was nothing but rounds and then one straight line, then it wouldn't work for me. 3 coats of the Waterlux gloss. I did notice that down in the center that there's a little dull spot, so looks like it's going to need 4 coats. Try and point that out. It's very, very minimal right in there. I don't even know if... Anyway, you know how I am. Here is the back side of the bowl. I didn't show it, but it's been engraved with the Boxelder being having some really heavy resin penetration into it. It's nice to actually engrave on. Size on this piece, I'll put the metric conversion up on the screen. This is 8 3/4 across and 4 inches tall, and around a 1/2 inch, little less than 1/2 inch in thickness. And I actually really like this, and hopefully the new owner does as well. All right, so step. Don't forget to put Designer Epoxy in the comments down below to be entered into the next draw at 115,000. It only took us 6 videos to get to another 5,000 this time, so that's great. Thank you so much for those who have subscribed, and of course I'll be doing another giveaway at 115,000 as well. So please leave a comment down below to be entered into that draw. And of course, the epoxy draw is only for the lower 48 U.S. states and Canada. Sorry, the rest of the world, we can't accommodate you. Congratulations to the winners. Thanks again for commenting. It certainly helps out with the algorithm, and this is why I want people to comment down below. And along with that, the thumbs up will also push my content into the YouTube world, and hopefully we can get some more folks over to this channel and grow it even more. Next week is going to be, it's going to be a Christmas themed project, but it's not Christmassy. At least I don't intend it to be Christmassy. It's going to have Christmas colors, I guess, maybe. So, I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys to figure out what it's going to be. So anyway, that's next week, so please come on back for that. All right, that's it. Take care. Stay safe. Don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. That is the largest way for me to grow my presence here on YouTube. I would really appreciate it. And just remember, you guys are awesome, and hopefully we'll see you next week.